is this morning on the brink of another breakup. Joining us to discuss today's headlines is Independent MP Dai and 2GB presenter James Willis. Good to see you both this morning.
Good morning.
Dai, chaos, division, talk about a toxic relationship. Is this going to be the second split we see in the space of a year?
Look, I think they're still going to remain in coalition. They're just
really
resigning
You're optimistic, are you?
I think they're just resigning from the Frontbench, which it seems chaotic, but I think this will give the Nats... I mean, we have to remember the Nats did not lose any seats at the last election.
They always remind us.
So they need to obviously reclaim their identity and to be able to vote differently. But obviously there is... I mean, the coalition is supposed to be a broad church, so there's going to be a bit of, testing times at the moment for the coalition, but I think I think that we need to really focus on, and I said this before, having a strong opposition. And I think by focusing on the split and by doing what they're doing, I think separating themselves will give them the ability to do what they did, which is vote differently for the legislations that they did the last few days.
Well, maybe, I mean, James, is it perhaps for the best if they do split?
Well, I think, to be honest, the mistake that was made here was Susan Lee playing politics with this issue from the very start. Now, I realise she's the opposition leader, and Dai's right. If you have bad opposition, you get bad government. We need a very strong opposition. But at the same time, Susan Lee said over Christmas we need Parliament back straight away to be, strengthening laws. Now, when the legislation was actually handed down, hundreds of pages, there were things on the table that have nothing to do with the tragedy at Bondi and are, largely haven't been scrutinised. So for people to be suddenly saying we've got to vote for these things all at once, there would have been an argument to oppose these on principle and just say we need to kick these down the road and make sure there are inquiries or there's enough scrutiny done. To be honest, as much as this is a mess, the Liberals and Nats need each other to form government again. And unless they are on the same page, and that means voting on the same page as well, we can't have them splitting up, which has happened too many times now at both levels. To be honest, I think this is going to cost Susan Lee her job. It may not happen straight away, but I think you'll find by April there'll be moves to remove the opposition leader and have a replacement there.
Well, you've been in Parliament, Dai, this week, obviously, as these laws have been debated, right? It's been ugly, as we know, but you've witnessed it firsthand. How toxic has it been? And in terms of Susan's performance, as James outlines, how have you experienced that to be?
Look, for us, for me anyway, as an independent, it was more challenging for myself to assess the bills. Initially it was one bill and got split into two bills. So therefore, for me, I was focusing on what's best for my community in voting for that bill. I wasn't concentrating, but obviously when we went in to vote, my concern, because I voted against for both, and I know that the Nats voted against the gun law, and David Littleproud had a really great argument because at the end of the day, you won't get the criminals handing back their guns in this law. You won't, but what you're punishing are the law-abiding citizens. The second bill, I was surprised because obviously I went in there also thinking, how am I going to vote on this? Of course, I voted against it. And there was one Liberal who voted against that as well. And so you saw that and you think, oh, how is this going to sit?
But is this because of Susan Lee's weak leadership?
Look, as a leader of an opposition and as a party, as a major party, and you can see Labor vote as a caucus, they will not budge. So I can imagine for a major party, you have to come together and vote the same way. Otherwise...
Well, do you, though? Because that's obviously one of the rules that has led to the Frontbench completely now resigning from the National side. Should that rule still stand? I mean, maybe...
It shouldn't. It shouldn't, absolutely. I mean, you should have a conscience vote.
I don't think so. I don't think so. No, I think that's where Labor's strong. I mean, Labor, look, the Albanese government's been let off the hook through all of this as well. Let's just remember. But at the end of the day,
there must be individual thoughts and opinions, James.
Absolutely.
If you're all voting on something on principle, even if you don't agree with it, then what does that say about your true character?
Well,
the
but
public sees that.
if you had the left and the right of the Labor Party splitting, you wouldn't get anything done. Their power is in voting together as a bloc. Now, you can grumble and mumble and say things privately about it, but at the end of the day, when you've got more than 90 lower house seats and you're voting together, it's impossible to stop. Well, that's politics.
That's politics.
It's politics, and it's happened for a long period of time.
But I think the public deserves better than that.
Well, no doubt. But if we voted for 150 independents and we'd get people like Dai Lee as Treasurer or Prime Minister any day of the week...
What's wrong with that?
The way that things lie, you've got one side with a strength and one side with a weakness, and if the Liberal Party can have a conscience vote and the Labor Party can't, well, then you're more chance of division here every single time.
Yeah, all right, and it all plays into Pauline Hanson's hands, doesn't it, with those surge in votes. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Appreciate it. Carl.
Your news is